Come on in, you guys. We got a brand new episode of Jimmy Rants in store for you here today. JimmyRants.com is the website, and the fun begins over on Instagram. So if you're not already following me on Instagram, go follow me now at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you are there, you can engage live in the content, just like all these beautiful people coming in right now. Thank you guys for being here today on the show. If you missed the show, we do go live at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. We occasionally throw in a 5 p.m. Eastern, and if the spirit moves, sometimes on the weekends as well, we'll put videos up there too. So if you missed any of the lives, though, we also simulcast over here on my Facebook page, so thank you guys for being here today as well. And yeah, all the past episodes will be up over at JimmyRants.com, and then we also put them up on YouTube. So type in the keyword Jimmy Rants, you will find the show. Welcome to all my YouTube viewers. Get lots of engagement over there as well. So guys, today I'm going to go a little bit controversial because there is this narrative being put out there right now that I thought, you know what, I've got to go on Jimmy Rants to address this. And maybe you've heard in the past few days that America is about to face some meat shortages. So I've already done a Jimmy Rants before about the Smithfield Foods plant, who does about 5% of the pork in America. They had to shut down because employees got COVID-19, and they shut it down indefinitely so that they could quarantine those employees that got sick, and so they could thoroughly clean all of the machines and everything in the Smithfield plant. And so now we're seeing other processing plants starting to see the same kind of thing. And so on Sunday in the New York Times, Tyson, the big chicken processor, the largest one in America, they put out almost a full page kind of advertisement that said, look out, America, the food supply is getting compromised and it might be getting harder to get meat. And so they're kind of putting this narrative out there that we're headed for meat shortages. And this morning I teased this Jimmy Rants all over social media. And I put out there, is America headed for meat shortages or is something else going on? And what was interesting is on Instagram, I got a comment from somebody before I even did this here rant. Somebody already commented, well, many of the plants are working very closely together. The employees are working closely together. Many of them have gotten sick with COVID-19. They can't operate if they don't have enough people, and they don't want to risk more people getting sick, so they shut it down. Not everything is a conspiracy theory, and there's zero facts behind what you're saying. I haven't said anything yet, so what? I read that and I was just thinking, I haven't even done the rant yet, and they're already saying what you're saying is wrong. Like, this is a product of our culture, you guys. Like, people are so quick to judge you just because you offer an alternative perspective. So yes, that's what they want us to believe. We're headed for meat shortages. I saw this article from CNN Wires where they're talking about 2 million chickens needing to be killed in Delaware and Maryland because there aren't any employees at the processing plant. So this is another kind of reason why they're thinking we're going to run low on food. Then I talked about Tyson. They're now warning of meat shortages due to COVID-19. Tyson said the food supply chain is breaking in a full-page New York Times spread on Sunday. As pork, beef, and chicken plants are being forced to close, even for short periods of time, millions of pounds of meat are going to disappear from the supply chain, according to John Tyson, the chairman of the board for Tyson Foods. As a result, there will be limited supply of our products available in grocery stores until we're able to reopen our facilities that are currently closed. And so they're talking about millions of animals, including chickens, pigs, and cattle, will need to be depopulated because of the closure of these facilities. The food supply chain, they say, is breaking. The thing I want people to hear loud and clear is, yes, some of these traditional food supply chain areas are breaking, which means we need to look for alternative means for unbreaking that food supply that we're traditionally able to get. think about where people go when they want food. For the most part, people's default is always going to be the grocery store. And not that there's anything wrong with buying food in the grocery store, but if the food supply chain runs right through the grocery store, and if some of the supply end of things from the manufacturing end are not working well, they pretend like, and they are preying on the ignorance of the American people to know that there's no other ways you could get food. The last time I checked, there are a bunch of local farmers that are dying to meet you, the consumer. And I did a whole Jimmy Rants on this recently, where farmers are having to discard perfectly good food because nobody's coming to see them. So I'm going to throw out this website again. Type in your zip code. For those of you that live in America, eatwild.com. Type in your zip code and it will show you the closest farms to where you live. And for most people within about 100 miles, you can find at least one farmer who could sell you some food. And I think it's disgusting that there's this notion that we're having meat shortages. Yeah, the processing in the traditional form has been disrupted, but let's not pretend like there's not other ways you can get food. And Tyson, I guarantee you, does not want you to know about your local farmer. Smithfield Foods, which shut down last week, don't want you to know about going and finding real whole food that, oh yeah, by the way, is also better quality of food because those farmers take better care of their animals than Tyson and Smithfield ever will. Okay? So let's not pretend like that meat shortages will be here tomorrow. Yes, it will be a disruption in the grocery store model, but no, availability is still there. They want you to think like you don't have any availability, so what are you going to eat now? And I want to get more on that here in just a minute. All right, I think that was all from this article I wanted to share. Another article on Bloomberg talking about 1/3 of the U.S. pork capacity is down after the outbreaks. Again, the food supply chain breaking down. Meat prices are going up. Wholesale beef has surged to a record high. Wholesale pork went up 30% last week. Again, all of these due to these plants being shut down because of COVID-19. So I'm not denying that it was the right thing to do to shut down these plants. If people are sick and they're touching food, definitely we got to do something about that. We don't want that being another means by which people get COVID-19. So don't mishear me here. But I don't think this whole let's scare people to death into thinking there's meat shortages is doing any good. Well, number one, it's just like what I've said many times before on these Jimmy Rants. If you watch the media coverage of all of this COVID-19 stuff, then you know their number one thing that they're trying to instill in everybody right now above everything else is fear and uncertainty. Because if they got you scared and they got you uncertain, then they got eyeballs and they've got attention. So never ever take your eye off the ball of that's what's going on here. And so if they tell you, oh no, there's meat shortages, they know that most people out there, vast majority of people, still eat meat in their diet, even a little bit of meat. You don't have to necessarily be full-on carnivore, but just have meat in your life. They want you to think, oh, you won't be able to get it. In fact, a friend of mine who knows I keep my ear to the ground on things related to diet health, they were like, so what's the truth about this meat shortage thing? And so I kind of gave her a mini rant yesterday about this. And so I was like, I got to come on Jimmy Rants and really kind of dig into this. Because I think there is something else going on here, and I'm going to get to that here in a minute. But I found another news story from Kiplinger.com. The coronavirus is a perfect storm for fake meat. The COVID-19 outbreak has actually benefited a small number of industries. Unsurprising, areas such as work collaboration tools and e-commerce have enjoyed the lift, but a few less likely winners are emerging too, and that includes plant-based protein companies like Beyond Meat, thanks to domestic and international trends. Here in the U.S., increasing worries about meat shortages thanks to outbreaks in tight quartered slaughterhouses is prompting a surge in the meatless meat. Tyson Foods, Smithfield Foods, and Brazilian food processor JBS have all recently shut down 3 plants. They account for 15% of the pork production in America. Other meats are also being impacted by the coronavirus-linked closures. Consumers are already latching on to plant-based proteins while they're in quarantine. Nielsen said the country's sales of plant-based meat products surged 265% over this same 8-week period last year versus 39% for fresh meat. Nationwide shortages of pork, beef, and chicken could start accelerating that adoption. So China has been a catalyst too. Beyond Meats recently started hawking its wares in Starbucks. KFC has started to try out plant-based chicken. Beyond Meat, the largest pure play on plant-based protein, already had a head of steam. In February, the company reported sales that more than tripled during its fourth quarter, though it also delivered a small net loss. Investors have driven Beyond Meat shares by 44% higher year to date in anticipation of a rapid growth. So investors wanting to get into the stock now will be paying 200 times next year's earnings estimates in order to have that opportunity. So people are jumping on this plant-based bandwagon. And what I want you guys to know is this is what I think is really going on here. We have a decided effort by these companies that have multi-millions of dollars invested by billionaires, including Bill Gates is one of them, but many billionaires. They have been putting their money into these fake meats. And I have a few news stories that Tyson was one of them that invested in the fake meat industry. Now, they're the biggest chicken supplier in America, and yet they were a 5% owner in Beyond Meat until they sold their shares last year because, get this, they wanted to be in the fake meat business. So they're the biggest meat producer in America, Tyson Foods is. They're getting into the fake meat business. Last year they announced, this story's from June of 2019, a pea-based chicken nugget alternative, and they're doing all kinds of other types of products like that. So they already have been in the fake meat market. And fake meat, whether we want to admit it or not, is far cheaper for them to make. You don't need processing plants where you have animals that need to be processed. You do have a processing plant to make these fake burgers, but not near to the level that you would for an animal-based processing plant. And the profitability of these is so much higher as well. And so we're pretending like there's no other interests involved with these shutdowns. Now, I get it. Again, I'm not denying people got COVID-19 in these facilities, although I think they could have prevented that too. They could have had testing before employees were allowed on the line, and they could have, made sure that they had proper distance between them, blah, blah, blah. They could have done some things to prevent that, but they didn't. But now they can use this to say, well, chicken won't be available, but here, come get our fake chicken nuggets. And the profitability on those things is far greater. Now, again, I'm not spreading a conspiracy theory. I'm just saying, look at how things are transpiring, where we're being told meat might not be available. We're being told that, all they have to shut down for public health, blah, blah, blah. But then they're like, here we come to save the day, and we've got fake meat available for you. Now, most of us in the keto and carnivore and paleo real food space, we're not going to eat that crap. We're just not. Under any auspices would we ever choose that as our source of nutrition. I think most of us would probably fast for a bit or seek out other alternatives in the meantime until the meat supply could come back if it did actually go away. I still think you could find a local farmer that would sell you meat. But the point of all this is something else is going on here. And I think we're hitting on it because they're all about launching vegan meat. This was all over the news last year. And do you remember how big, at least they made it seem, with all the hype last year, with all of the vegan plant-based meats that were out there? We saw Burger King promote the Impossible Whopper. We saw Beyond Meat burgers, and they were supposed to be better than beef. This kind of theme song has been out there for a little while. And I briefly touched on this before, but we have a very concerted effort on a lot of levels to make us move to get rid of meat in our diet and to move to more of a plant-based type of diet. It's happened from many angles. I talked about the World Health Organization being all in on a plant-based diet. And of course, theirs is for the purposes of health and purposes of climate change. In fact, that same friend that asked me about the meat shortages, and I was telling her some of these things, I said, yeah, the vegans are really pushing this, getting rid of meat because they think animals are increasing climate change. And she's like, what? Like, she never even heard that argument before. Now, granted, she doesn't follow the industry and news and stuff as closely as someone like me, but she was clueless. She had no idea that they were making that argument, and even she kind of went, "What? That was weird." And so we have this concerted effort to make us all get rid of meat in our diet. So I found this article that's from the Sustainable Agriculture Systems website. There's a whole lot of information in here. This came out in February last year, but it was right after that Eat Lancet Commission. Remember that last year I did a whole Jimmy Rants all about Eat Lancet, how they wanted us to move away from meat and more to plant-based. And so there was some really good information in here. Let me skip ahead. They mentioned the climate change stuff because all of that is a part of this discussion. They talk about the resource depletion and how we need to make food available on, their goal, you guys, is to get rid of all the cows, everything on pastures, and replace it with soy and corn and other crops that they think would feed the world on these same grasslands where cows are. What they don't know, if they ever look up Alan Savory's work, they realize that animals are essential to all of that land not becoming destitute. Go look up Alan Savory here on YouTube, those of you watching this on replay. So the CEO of Impossible Foods, Patrick Brown, announced last year that the whole mission of his company is to completely replace the use of animals as a food globally by the year 2035. And that is unequivocally the most important mission in the world, full stop. They put it right there. That is their goal, is to get rid of meat in the food supply. Now, you might think, man, that sounds preposterous. How in the world would they possibly do that? Well, we're seeing with COVID-19 a path by which they could start to do that. And if we don't pay attention, they could really make this happen sooner than later. Not 2035, maybe 2025. Yikes. The UN also believes that, quote, tackling meat is the world's most urgent problem. So the UN back in 2018 named both Impossible Foods and Beyond Meat the joint winners of the Champions of the Earth Award in the Science and Innovation category. And what's fascinating in this article I'm reading from, there are two novels where they talked about synthetic food being integral to the themes explored. One of them was 1984. You know how we always talk about George Orwell, how we're living in an Orwellian world. 1984 is becoming real. He had a line in there that's Winston was eating his lunch. He began swallowing spoonfuls of this pink grayish stew, which among its general sloppiness had cubes of spongy pinkish stuff, which was a preparation of meat. So fake meat was kind of predicted in George Orwell. I didn't know if you knew that or not. But this is not unprecedented either in world history. 1929, Mussolini ordered the formation of the Committee for the Study of Soy, which announced that they wanted to put soy flour as a mandatory ingredient in all Italian staples. In the 1950s and 60s, the Communist Party in the Soviet Union pushed soy protein and soy margarine as the solution to a low-cost feeding of the masses, which where we are right now, they're saying meat shortages, and people don't have income. Let's offer a cheaper alternative that gives nutrition. And can you see how they would now make these fake meats kind of a part of that discussion? All right, there was something else in here that was pretty interesting. But that was a good part of what I wanted to share here. I guess what you're seeing here, though, is there is something a little bit deeper here going on. There's a substantial corporate interest in this alternative protein concept. And guys, I don't think they realized, I think when you're so deeply embedded in some philosophy in your life, you begin to believe your own hype. And I think some of these vegan billionaires, like Bill Gates and others, Richard Branson, I think, also did this Memphis Meats, which was a fake meat company as well. These guys are fully vested in it, to the point that they thought, man, there's going to be such overwhelming interest in this fake meat market. And then last year it came out and it flopped. Like, nobody was buying these. And early on in this COVID-19 crisis, everybody went for meat first. Meat was gone very quick. And now apparently, according to the sales statistics recently, now that meat's getting harder to find, people are now turning to these fake meats. But they want us all to turn to the fake meats. This is what I think this is really about, and how we need to be very mindful that this could be deliberate, that this could be the something else that's going on, not just meat shortages, but the fact that they really want to push this whole idea that we all need to be eating these fake meats. Again, that can sound a little bit conspiracy theory, and I get it. I'm right there with you. That's why I'm kind of teetering on the edge of this. What's going on here? Let's not fully buy this whole idea that we have meat shortages. And again, if you joined us late, go to eatwild.com, type in your zip code, and you'll find a local farmer that probably has perfectly good meat for you to eat right now. But look at what they're trying to sell the American people right now. It seems they want us all to go to these plant-based burgers. Impossible Foods, the company receiving much of the alternative protein limelight, they attracted nearly $400 million in funding. And then Memphis Meats, Richard Branson was the other one. Let's see. Branson said this could have a huge impact. Livestock is estimated to produce 18% of the greenhouse gas. See, this is the thing. They think animals are going to ruin the planet. So if you tell people, oh, well, if you eat meat, then you're a part of that whole process where the planet is getting destroyed, your health is getting destroyed, they're doing no good to us, so let's get rid of all animals for food consumption. Don't doubt me that that's what this could easily be about. Let's see if there's anything else in here. Like, is this fascinating to you guys, that the possibility of trying to control the food supply is at work here? And they talk about that here. So I suspect the alternative protein promoters know the commercial production of synthetic protein is impractical, but you follow the money. It's plain to see alternative protein movement is focused on all these plant-based companies. Imitation plant-based products like the Impossible Burger can be manufactured now using readily available agro-commodities like soy, wheat, peas, and oil seeds. Therefore, the only real barrier preventing these from entering the mainstream food supply is getting the consumer to prefer it. And therein lies the rub. Tell the consumer there's shortages in meat. Tell the consumer, oh no, we're going to run out of meat soon. So what does the consumer do? The consumer has to start processing and going, is there anything else that is like meat, maybe tastes like meat, has texture like meat, that I could eat instead? And unbeknownst to them, they don't realize fake processed meat, plant-based meats is not the same as meat. But because it tastes similar-ish, I've had the I had the Beyond Meat Burger last year. I tried it for science, and it tastes kind of like meat. It's not bad, but it was disgusting in the raw form. But they're going to convince people there's meat shortages, so people will start seeking out these alternatives. And that's what they're doing. And so that's how you get the consumer to prefer it. Alternative protein company executives know that most food consumers will only buy their imitation products if they can be made cheaper, which they can, or more appealing than the real McCoy. You tell people there's no real meat anymore, that makes fake meat real appealing suddenly, because people want something that mimics it. And here's the thing, we all in the health space, we look at food not for taste necessarily. Yes, we love the taste, but our primary reason for eating the foods that we eat is for the nutrition that we get and that it's in its wholest form possible. For most people out there, does this taste good? Okay, wow, this tastes just like meat. And so that's why they choose to have like a fake plant-based meat. Well, it tastes like meat, so what's the difference between that and a cow hamburger? So if my dad can go to Walmart, Josh Tetrick, the founder and CEO of an alternative protein company, if he can go to Walmart and buy cheap cod for $2.99 or a fake one for $2.49, he's probably going to choose the fake one. If you can figure out how to get the cost down and quality is better, it doesn't matter if consumers care about the animal welfare or not. If they understand anything about this or if they believe in the science of climate change, that's when the switch will occur. Price is one of two elements central to the success of any food product. The second one is taste. And so this guy, Patrick Brown, gave a 2009 interview, and he was explaining that the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, of the UN published a study looking at the environmental impact of animal farming. And the bottom line is that it's the most destructive and fastest growing environmental problem in the world. Here's what he said about his plan to eliminate animal farming on planet Earth. The gist of my strategy is to rigorously calculate the cost of repairing and mitigating all the damage to the environment, and then make the case that if we don't pay as we go for this, we're dumping this on our children. This is the cost for all those Big Macs, and consumption should go down quite a bit. The other thing is to come up with yummy, nutritious, affordable, mass marketable alternatives so people who are totally addicted to animal foods will find an alternative that they are inherently attracted to, so much so that McDonald's will start marketing them too. I want to recruit the world's most creative chefs, and here is the challenge. So, they have laid it out, you guys, that all along, their purpose here is nothing more than trying to get rid of meat. And I think they are using this crisis with COVID-19 and all the ramifications that have happened in the food supply, which I've documented here on Jimmy Rants the past few weeks, with all the plants shutting down indefinitely because of people in the plants getting COVID-19, having to quarantine those people, having to clean the machines and all the everything. And they want us to believe that we're about to have meat shortages. And when I posted about this Jimmy Rants here today on Facebook, somebody wrote, yeah, they already ran out of bacon in their local Costco. And so you're already going to kind of see hints of this in your local stores where you might be like, oh my gosh, there is meat shortages. And don't doubt me, they're going to be pushing hard. Watch them ramp up production of these fake meat products. Watch them get them in stores in droves, because the general consumer doesn't realize that that is a very highly processed, full of crap alternative to meat. And people will see meat on the title of the product and they'll just gobble it up thinking, oh, okay, well, regular meat's gone, so let's have this version of meat, which was my problem calling these vegan plant-based burgers meat. No, meat is meat. If you're from an animal, you meat. Let's don't call it meat if it ain't got no meat in it. And yet that's what they're doing. And it's fooling a whole lot of people. All right, let's see. I think that was it from this article. But guys, what do you think about this? I mean, am I onto something a little bit here? What do you think could be going on here? Do you feel like there's more to this story of the meat shortages? Because I don't think we have a meat shortage at all. What we have plenty of meat. We have a processing shortage right now. And I know there are other food like processing plants around the country. I think right now more than ever before, we need to be testing and making sure that everybody that touches the food in there is completely healthy and completely fine. free them up from being worried about having COVID-19, and then we can process the meats. The problem is these poor cattle ranchers and farmers that have all this meat that needs to be processed, they can't do anything with it in the whole form. And so without the processing plants, they're actually having to bury these animals, kill them, and then bury these animals so that predators don't come on their property and like wreak havoc. So that's where we are right now. Like, what do you think the solution is? And do you agree with me that there could be opportunistic people looking to use this as the way to promote their agenda? Because I've talked many, many years over all my work about how there is this decided effort way, way behind the scenes trying to get us all to become vegans. And if they could find a way to get rid of meat from our food supply, they will do it. And so this is a very convenient way to do it. Again, not saying those people in those plants didn't get sick with COVID-19, not saying it wasn't the right thing to shut them down, but let's not pretend like we've got meat shortages. There really aren't. And I think there's a hidden agenda, a deeper meaning of what's going on here than what we're being told. All right, I want to see what you guys have to say. I told you it was going to be a little bit controversial here today on Jimmy Rants. We're going to come to Instagram Live first, and when we have time, we'll come back over here to Facebook Live, and let's see what you guys have to say. Welcome in, welcome in. JimmyRants.com, by the way, is the website if you miss any of the past episodes. Thank you guys for being here. Beth says, I've read some of these articles, and what makes me sad is that all these animals are going to waste. At the least, they should rehome them in the wild. Well, the problem is a lot of these animals, because that's a question that my friend that asked me about this yesterday, she was like, well, can't they just keep them alive until these processing plants become available? And the problem is a lot of this is about timing. The food supply is all like subject to the timing. So the cow, the pig, the whatever animal that's being processed into food, it's at the perfect level that if, yeah, you could keep them alive, put them in the wild, whatever, but they would, the meat would become tougher. It would not be the same product. And so keep that in mind, that they've kind of got this process, and a cow could be 2-year process getting them to come. So I feel bad for those farmers that in 2018 started raising a cow to become meat to sell someday. And now that basically took away income out of their pocket. Beth says even if they just let them loose, they would benefit the circle of life just running around wild and free. Well, I don't know if a cow could just run around wild and free without consequences. Definitely not by themselves. Bonnie says, I typed it in when you mentioned this the other day, and in 5 minutes I found a farm 20 minutes from me and grass-fed beef. Yay. So yes, eatwild.com. There's other websites out there, but I love eatwild.com. It's easy to remember, eatwild.com. Type in your zip code and you will find a farmer close to you, and they will be thrilled to hear from you. Shars Wofford says, right on point. Thank you. Enhanced Beauty and Brows. Thank goodness I live in the Northeast. We have lots of farms out here. Yeah, and I think in the Northeast there's a lot of like Amish farmers as well. So I wonder how they're carrying on. I'm sure they're doing just fine with all their normal activity, and they're unbeknownst to what's going on because they don't read the newspaper, don't have TV sets and all that. So they're probably like, what, we have, what, there's a virus out there? What? Lilligrand says they want to push the prices up of meat. That's true. They could keep enough plants running if they wanted to. Well, I do agree that the right thing to do was to shut them down as soon as they found out that there was people that had COVID-19 in the plant. What I don't agree with is that they even allowed that to happen to begin with. They could have easily set up a protocol that would have tested employees before they were allowed on the plant floor. Then if everybody was clear, then everybody should be fine, and the food would not be compromised, and then within each other they would not be compromised. That would have solved this problem before it started. Enhanced Beauty and Brows says this is a way for us to look into other sources of protein. Canned tuna, frozen wild-caught fish, beef, chicken, and pork may get scarce. I will by no means start eating fake meat. Yeah, I don't think many of us. And she said, I'll fast before that happens. Yeah, I think fasting or looking for alternative sources. So thank you for mentioning canned fish as an alternative. Cariana says, I feel like everyone forgets about lamb. That would be a bad idea, wouldn't it? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm in an ornery mood today. It's almost all grass-fed to begin with, and rabbit, we should branch out from the big three. And if you live in an area where you could go hunt, now more than ever, get out in the woods and just start shooting at them animals if it's legal in your area. Bonnie says, keep our eyes wide open doesn't mean there's a conspiracy out there, but if we close our eyes to some ideas, that's when it slips through the cracks. Yes. Sounds like a conspiracy, but it's the total truth. There are people out there that capitalize on tragedies like this pandemic, and that's my problem too. I get it. When people are in crisis, you realize there's things you can do to kind of get people's attention. And trust me, here in the health space, there are plenty of people that I've seen trying to use COVID-19 as a way to get people to eat whatever chosen diet that someone is promoting. But I think it's kind of sleazy to use this time as a means for pushing agenda. And I think that's precisely what a lot of these fake meat companies are doing, for example. Everybody's using this as an opportunity to promote personal agendas. How about we just use it as an opportunity to help each other in our time of need? That's what I'm a whole lot more interested in than anything else. Chat for Mom, I just watched your rant from yesterday. It was wonderful and so full of information. Thank you. Yeah, it was about insulin resistance kind of being this, we're seeing the major link with blood sugar, insulin, inflammation kind of connecting most of the people getting the most sick from COVID-19. So thank you for that. Cariana says, and not control it for the better either. It's as if they want people sick, afraid, and inflamed, and then they're easier to control. Yeah, I mean, your mind can go in a million directions with motivation, but when they're not being clear about what they're doing and why they're putting out messages like we've got meat shortages, like what was in the best interest of Tyson to put out this notion that we're going to have disruption in the food supply? Knowing that Tyson has alternatives to meat, don't be surprised if we see Tyson start ramping up production of their fake meats, and then they start promoting those heavily as, oh, well, we can't give you our normal meat, but we have a wonderful replacement product that is far healthier for you, far better for the environment, global warming, no problem with this product. Go ahead and eat it right away. I'm waiting for it to happen, you guys. Jax says it's sad that people don't understand that if they just ditched the carbs, they wouldn't feel the need to eat so much food. That's true. Heather says, I made relationships with local farmers before this started. It's the only place I can still get meat and dairy and then support local farming that's responsible. Yes. Chris Loving, I don't understand. There's machines that are shutting down to clean, and they're clean and sanitized every night. Yeah, I don't know what takes so long to clean these machines where the employees had COVID-19. I guess they're just being extra care. I don't know. Again, you say you shut down indefinitely, and to what end? For what purpose? I get it, to quarantine those individuals that have COVID-19, test the rest of the employees and make sure they're clean. And if they are, and you thoroughly clean the machines, I don't know why they can't get back to work in these processing plants sooner than later. Diana says, I'm almost 99% positive that we had one of those fake meat steaks on Sunday. Looked like a steak, but didn't taste like one. I will turn to my local farmer. How did you accidentally get a fake meat steak? Like, was it in like a clear package like a steak? That's weird. They kind of have to disclose that it's not real meat. So that's interesting that you had it by accident. Anna says, so they don't want us to eat animals for food, then what is going to happen to the overrun of the pollution makers? Kill them because they love animals, not for food. Good question. Brittany says, as someone who was once pulled into the vegan propaganda, it's not about saving the animals. Val says, went with my best friend to Sam's Club this morning. Meat department was almost entirely wiped out. She panicked. I told her it would be okay. We bought some frozen meat for now. Angie said, this is why we started raising our own cows, chickens, and gardens. So Angie, I'm right there with you. I've got 20 backyard chickens back there. I've been eating like a madman their eggs. Wonderfully delicious and nutritious. I've always wanted a cow or a goat or, some animal like that. Pigs would be fun as well. But yes, I'm seeing that there's a whole lot more interest in people having their own animals and growing their own food in a garden now. So really, really interesting. Brittany says, my local farmer friend was having issues finding a butcher open for her full-grown pigs. This is a perfect timing on animals for meat. Farmers are losing so much money right now feeding full-grown animals. Yes, that's the problem. It's not a meat shortage. We got plenty of meat. It's a processing thing in the supply chain. So if you can't process those animals, you can't make them into usable meat that people can use. And I wonder if there's going to be any kind of innovations made where people say, well, we don't have the traditional processing plants up and running, but we can do a makeshift one and figure out ways to do this. Because if the animals are ready to be processed, there will be a way, I'm sure, that somebody's going to come up with. Val says, oh, believe me, the Amish know about it. I grew up in an Ohio Amish country. I was kind of half joking that they are oblivious probably to the worries of our world because they have a utopian world. Tiger says, problem is sometimes local products are out of reach price-wise for some. One local farm wants $9 for a dozen eggs. So I would be surprised if right now you negotiated with a farmer about lower price, that they wouldn't give you the lower price. All you have to do is ask. Now, again, don't be unreasonable. Don't ask for that same $9 dozen eggs for like $2, but offer $4 and see what they say. Offer $4.50, just something that's a compromise. I promise you, these farmers care about getting you the food that you need. Brittany says, love that I have my wild man, that's her husband, freezer full of deer, rabbit, squirrel, birds, frog legs, and a partridge in a pear tree, and freshwater fish. So yeah, if you can hunt. I had a ribeye that looked funny when it was cooked and I didn't feel great afterwards, said Chris. Are they really putting like fake steaks in with the rest of the steaks? Like, they're not supposed to be able to do that. Like, they have to disclose on the packaging if it's not real meat. Ken says, I love meat. I eat it every day, but I would go vegetarian for a month or two. Wouldn't hurt me. I would not be held to ransom on price. Well, that's true. If they raise the price to an ungodly amount, then yes, don't feel like you have to pay that ungodly amount. Chris says they sell pigs for $50 a head. You take it to a butcher. Yeah, that's an idea too. If you can find a butcher who could do it and would do it, I think that's a wonderful alternative. All right, thank you, Instagram. We're going to pop over here to my Facebook page now. What's up, you guys? Thanks for being here on Jimmy Rants. Let me scroll back to the top. See what you guys have to say about this issue. Kira says, happy to see you live. Well, I'm happy you're here. Kira is commenting on the person who basically was chastising me for my view on this before I even did the rant. She said, preemptive rants apparently are now allowed. I had not said a word. If you missed it at the beginning, I had a person when I promoted I would be asking this question about is America really headed for meat shortages or is there something more? That's all I said. That's all I said. And she wrote that not everything is a conspiracy theory. There is zero facts behind what you're saying. I haven't said anything yet. So what are you talking about? So yeah, everybody's got an opinion. What's that phrase that I like to use? Yeah, everybody, opinions are like butts. Everybody has one and most of them stink. And it's true. Marcella says, you read my mind because I was just talking about this with my colleagues. This is a great opportunity to support your local farmers who raise their animals with better husbandry. That means healthier animals, fewer zoonotic viruses like the Chinese wet market spread the COVID-19, fewer need for antibiotics. Exactly. Yeah, eatwild.com is that website, so thank you. Jimmy, have you seen the importance of regenerative farming? Would love to see you do an in-depth show about that. Yeah, Joel Salatin is the leader about regenerative farming. If you guys have never heard of Joel Salatin, he is a hoot and a handy, man. I've had him on the Living La Vida Low Carb show a few times now. And man, oh man, so incredible. Look him up, Joel Salatin, Salatin. He is one of the nation here in America, one of the nation's best regenerative farmers out there. I have seen his setup. Look up his videos on YouTube, those of you watching this. He basically moves around his chicken coops, and it's just amazing what he does. And all the grass regenerates. It's just amazing. So yes, I have definitely seen the importance of it. Lynn says, I'm so fortunate to just live a few minutes away from the Happy Cow Creamery. I buy their meats and butter all the time. You are definitely lucky. Amy says, so glad you did this. A friend of mine just talked to me about this today. Yeah, when my friend who doesn't pay attention to diet, health, or anything mentioned it, I started digging deeper, and I didn't realize Tyson had put out that full page ad in the New York Times on Sunday. So when I read that, I was like, whoa. So they're already trying the fear-mongering tactic. And that's what's happened for most of this COVID-19 crisis, is fear has ruled the roost. Guys, I'm not fearful of anything right now. No. I refuse to let them instill any fear in me, because I don't choose to participate in what they're trying to sell me. And what they're selling is fear and uncertainty. What I want to be sure of in my life is, what do I know about myself? And am I staying true to what I know about myself? And if you do those things in your own life, you should not be scared. You should have quite a resolute attitude about all of this. And when all this is over, you're going to be the one that's way ahead of most people, because most people will have to come out of this probably seeking psychotherapy to overcome all the stress that this caused. Norma says, it's amazing the air quality in major cities has cleared. So much for cow farts. Yeah, that is amazing. Look up on Google sometime. Google like air quality since COVID-19. And yes, some of the smog and the worst places in the world, especially LA and Beijing, China, there are some really big cities where smog was bad. And then since all this has gone down and people have stayed in their houses, not as much people on the roads anymore, all that smog and everything has lifted. It's pretty crystal clear. It's pretty amazing. Judy says the packing plants are running at 1/3 capacity. The packers are making about $1,200 each head. They process the calf producers losing hundreds of dollars for each of the calves sold. While all of this is going on, they're selling box beef to the retailers at record highs and then importing from other countries at record highs. It sounds like a scam to me. And I don't doubt you on any of those things. I think probably all of that is going on. And if we don't pay attention to this, and we don't realize that this so-called meat shortage could be resolved in other ways other than what they're going to be pushing on us soon. You wait, guys. You're going to mark this date. Towards the end of April of 2020, Jimmy Moore said, watch, they're going to push fake meat on you as the alternative. Oh, we don't have any meat anymore, America, but here is our fake meat. And it's cheaper, and it tastes just as good as meat. You watch. I think within 2-3 months, we're going to see heavy promotion of that. June says, would like $150 refunded. Well, there you go. Go ask Debbie Hubbs is the one to ask, not Jimmy Moore, but thank you. Holly says, my local beef will be in my freezer this month. We are getting low, half a beef coming. That's awesome. Geraldine says, I think something else is happening. The progressives want to shut production down. This hurts ranchers. Frankly, it's beginning to appear this whole thing is being used to drag the country into socialism. Again, I appreciate all opinions. I don't squelch out opinions. I definitely give no opinion about that opinion other than thank you for sharing it. I know that that is something that some people are believing right now. And yeah, I think I could do a whole Jimmy rants on this whole idea that we need to be shutting out people's opinions right now. In fact, I did print out a story that I do want to get to where there's a lot of scientists and doctors and medical professionals and people kind of all around this that are saying things that run counter to what's being said in the mainstream. And so we don't need to shut those voices out. We need to hear them out. And yeah, there's a lot of kind of craziness out there, and you can weed through that. But if there's doctors that are like working with COVID patients and other things, we need to hear them if they have an alternative perspective to the narrative that's being put out there. So I will always welcome any and all opinions here on Jimmy Rants. But thank you guys for sharing in this today. I thought this was important information that we're going to be told meat shortages are here. We're going to be told, oh, well, it's getting grave. I don't know what we're going to do. And then don't be surprised when fake meat starts to rule the day. That's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. As always, you can engage live in the content right here on Instagram Live. I do go live Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. till about noon. And so check that out. Go follow at Livin' Low Carb Man, LivinLowCarbMan. I also simulcast on my Facebook page. So thank you guys for being here today too. So we also do a 5 p.m. one every once in a while and sometimes on the weekends, but definitely 11 a.m. Monday through Friday. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay for up to 24 hours here on Instagram. But after that, it does go over to JimmyRants.com in archive form. Also on YouTube, type in a keyword Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. So guys, that's it for now. Until next time, we'll see you then.